and welcome to the news with the Two Whalleys. I'm Simon Whalley, and the other Whalley is my dad, John. He's 85, I'm 45. He's in Wales, I'm in Japan. He's a big meat eater, I'm vegan. He reads the Daily Mirror, I read the Guardian. There's a lot we agree on, there's a lot we disagree on. We usually have conversations once a week, and we just put the world to rights, moaning about the state of the world. And we thought, why don't we actually record this and see if it's any funny, if it's good. So that's what we're going to do. If you like the cut of our jib, leave some messages in the comments and share on social media. If there's anything you want to hear us talk about, again, drop a message in the comments and we'll try and talk about it. Okay, let's get into it. Here we go. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, what about all this water going into all this sewage going into the seas and the rivers,
Yeah. Go on then, get into it. What have you found?
Well, they reckon there's 825 times a day sewage goes into our rivers and our oceans.
Right.
Which is absolutely, it's tampons, wet wipes all go into the rivers and into this. Oh, absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, Dad, isn't it? So why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, they should, because they're not putting money into into
reinvesting,
into refining the sewage.
Yeah. So they're not looking after the infrastructure.
No.
And that's been since when, Dad, isn't it?
And the thing is, all these sewage companies, a lot of these sewage companies are owned by foreign countries.
Yeah.
So they couldn't care less about our environment.
Yeah, no, of course not. Yeah. They're just thinking about paying their investors, right? Yeah, no, it's silly situation they're in, Dad, isn't it? For one of the richest countries in the world.
Yeah. And then in 2021, the Conservative MPs were 256 voted, rejected a proposal by the House of Lords to require water companies to reduce sewage discharges. Right?
Yeah.
They argued safeguards already existed and that new measures would cost billions. I mean, it's crazy. Money comes into it again, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, totally. I mean, it was the situation that we were in with the water before was fine, wasn't it? I mean, I was young, but I don't remember there ever being a problem when I used to go and turn on the tap. The water came out, apart from, when you had the hose pipe bans and stuff, it seemed fine. Why did they need to privatize it, Dad, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, why did they have to why did Margaret Thatcher have to privatize everything nearly,
Well, she wanted the money in the short term, didn't she? So she made a lot of money from selling the people's assets, right? To raise money in the short term. But
I mean, 50 beaches in Great Britain have been warned that not to swim in that, I mean, it's absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, when you warn people not to swim because of the pollution in the ocean, Oh?
Yeah, no, it used to be like that years ago, Dad. I remember, surfers for sewage and stuff were really active when I was surfing back in the late 80s, 90s, but it seemed to have cleaned itself up a bit, and then it's gone ridiculous now, right?
I think it's probably safer to go swimming in the canal than the rivers or the ocean.
Well, I don't know about that either. We'll get to that later, because it wasn't just the oceans, was it? I mean, it was all the rivers they were just emptying it into, Dad, weren't they?
Yeah. The rivers had tampons going in, wet wipes. They're absolutely ridiculous,
And what? So
A lot of it as well is the agricultural, and the pesticides are going into the rivers, aren't they? Seeping into the rivers with all the pesticides they put on the land.
Yeah, that was the number one cause of river pollution, wasn't it? It wasn't unbelievably, it wasn't dumping hundreds of times raw sewage into the river every day. That's not even number one. And it's because
Mm.
you've got all the animals that in the UK, all their poo, right? All their waste.
Oh yeah, the manure, like yeah, that seeps into it, like as well. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
into
I
this
mean,
river.
factory farms have got these massive lagoons of waste outside, Dad, and that kind of stuff just gets when it rains, they overflow, and they get into the river systems, kills the rivers. What you were talking about, all of that. It's all the nitrogen and stuff in it, Dad. It sucks all the oxygen out of the river, so the fish don't have any oxygen to
Well,
breathe.
I know. I saw a picture. It was on TV and showing an old dead fish floating on the top. I mean, it's absolutely great. And people are going to swimming in that. Like, it's crazy, isn't it?
Oh, I know. It's like most most rivers now really. If they've got wastewater further upstream, or if they've got factory farms or lots of intensive farms anyway, you wouldn't want to swim in them, Dad.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Well,
that's probably most rivers, isn't it?
the trouble is, all the money they're making, they're not putting into refining the sewerage, are they?
No, no, they're not. And then, like when the rivers are severely polluted, it's the taxpayers that pay for them to be cleaned up, Dad.
Yeah, yeah,
They're,
yeah.
they're not they're not
Okay.
incentivized to fix any of this, Dad, right? It's a
Yeah.
great money making scam, Dad. If you've got enough money to be invested in Welsh water or whatever, and you've got a nice pension fund in wherever it is, it's a nice thing to invest in, isn't it?
I mean, and a lot of these factories as well are dumping all their stuff into the rivers as well, aren't they?
Oh, what?
It is. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen there.
Well, I mean, there's going to have to be. What we need is a decent government of actual people who care in it. But as
Mm,
as, you,
mm,
as they
mm.
say, you get the government you deserve, Dad, isn't it? So maybe that is we deserve this.
Well, it all comes down to money. They do this. It's the cheapest way of unloading the sewerage, isn't it? Is
Yeah,
by
yeah,
dumping into the sea and the rivers.
yeah, totally.
Uh,
Say then minimize the bottom line, and then they can maximize the returns to investors, and then they can incentivize more, encourage more investment. That's the way it works, isn't it? Uh,
yeah, 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 yeah.
and unless you've got, we lost all the regulations. That's what Thatcher and Reagan were about, right? Just getting rid of all these regulations. And again, that's what the Tories are trying to do now. Get out of Europe. They don't give a shit about. They don't care about immigration levels, Dad. What they care about being able to cut all of the, what they call red tape, but it's mostly job protections, environmental protections, and stuff like that. That's what they wanted to leave for, Dad, isn't it? So they can just
Yeah, yeah,
cut
yeah.
all that red tape that protect us and the environment.
But no, they don't want to spend money. No, it's like all the energy companies. They don't want to spend money. They want to give it to the share, billions to the shareholders.
Yeah, which I mean
But I
they're
mean, half that money should be invested into yeah, and I don't know, invested in.
yeah. I mean, definitely at the minimum, like a certain percentage should be paid to the certain percentage should be kept for a reinvestment, Dad, right?
Reinvest. Yeah, yeah,
There
yeah.
should be a minimum percentage, that has to be reinvested to keep the infrastructure. And if you're going to privatize stuff, you want what we were promised is better service. We haven't even got that, and a cheaper price, Dad, as well. We definitely haven't got that. Do you know what I mean? So both promises have evaporated, haven't they? You know, Dad?
Yeah, what happened then?
I don't know. I think it just cut out. So well, yeah, I was just saying that we were promised, that we would have privatization would make things a better. We'd have a better service. It'll be
Mm.
much better run, and then you'll have it'll be cheaper as well, right? That's the two promises we were made, that are made to us.
Yeah.
And you don't get either. You get a shit
Well,
service.
no, well, it's the same as
Price.
it's the same as Brexit, isn't it? They promised that we'd have it better. It's gone worse since we come out of Brexit.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was enough people that saying that was going to happen, right? It wasn't. I don't think it was a shock to most people that it was going to be a nightmare. Yeah, I don't know. But I think we both thought it was better to remain, Dad, did we?
Oh yes, yeah.
All right. The other, another. Go on.
Yeah. And then there's one thing I can't understand as well is the churches nowadays. Right, there's one in Swansea now. They made a curry house. Right,
Yeah.
there's one that's changed into a mosque, and there's other churches that sell antiques. I mean, why? Why is the churches declining, and why are the people declining going to church?
Oh, wait, hang on. I thought you were saying then that you had a problem with the churches being taken over by other faiths and other purposes and stuff, were you?
Well, no, there's a decline in people going to church, and I think the decline is because people want different things. The churches bow down and give it to them, and they shouldn't. Like, for instance, two men married in church, two women. Now that shouldn't be allowed. But the churches have, giving it to the people. It shouldn't. It's their the religion is it's man and wife to get married, not two men and not two women. Now they're giving way to people's fantasies. You know what I mean? And for a start, I know queers shouldn't be. They should kick the queers out of the church for a start.
Oh, fuck, there was a lot to unpack there, isn't it? Oh, God. I thought we were going to do the water one first.
Well, I mean, it's true, isn't it? I mean, it's against their religion. So why do I have people, queers, against their religion, preaching to people?
Wait,
I mean,
I
think
what do you mean?
people would get.
We're going to attack. Well, first things first. What do you mean it's against whose religion? What do you mean?
Well, a man is meant. God has meant a man to be with a woman, not two men. And sex, how can that be sexual or a man? How can that be sexy? You know what I mean? I mean, it's not natural. It's not, it's just not natural.
Well, Dad, I mean, I don't know what natural means. I don't know what natural means.
It's fantasies of people, and the church allow. No,
I mean,
the church are bowing down to people's fantasies, and they shouldn't.
Well,
it's their religion, and they should keep to the religion.
Right. So I think what my take on this, Dad, is what I think the church is doing is not bowing down to people's fantasies. It is trying to stay relevant, right? So the church, basically, my generation, nobody pretty much goes to church anymore. I don't know what it is that 15%, if lucky, right, go my generation. So the church is left with all these buildings, all this infrastructure, all churches, all its investments. They want to stay relevant. They're trying to appeal to younger people, Dad. And if the church starts saying, any gay people can't come here, all gay people who are young are not going to be able to go to church, and not just them, all their friends and family probably will say, well, look, if my son or daughter,
I'm not saying they can't come into the church to pray. I'm not saying that. I mean, leave it to, but I'm saying they shouldn't be allowed to marry two men and two women in church, and they shouldn't have vicars preaching in church.
Well, you were just talking about.
I'm not saying the queer are not allowed to go into the church.
Oh, okay. So they can't. Why? I don't know why it would be why would it bother you though, Dad, if two people who love each other want to get married and
because it's against religion.
In what way is it against?
Where you live in Japan, right? Yeah. They don't allow it, right? Now there's a lot of people. there's a lot of
Oh,
people in
they
Japan
married. Yeah,
are coming to England to
right.
get married. Two men to get married.
Yeah. No, and if you listen, if you read that article, Dad, it was from a few months ago. But if you read it, then what they were saying, those Japanese people were saying they're so happy that they can get married and live with their partner in the UK, right? They can't do that in Japan. They're complaining about it in Japan.
No, because I think Japan have got the right idea.
Well, I think most people here disagree, Dad. Or it's way over 50%. It's like it's quite a popular thing. People want it to happen. They want that law to change. You know?
No, I don't.
But
I think you see. I think the church is going to get weaker. The more they bow to the people and let them have their fantasies, the church is going to get weaker.
well, I mean, the church is going to get weaker, Dad. Yeah. Anyway, I mean, I did a. So it's the fact that if you're talking about Christianity, Dad, it's the fastest decline in religion, even in America, where you always think they're gun crazy and Jesus crazy and Trump crazy. They've in 1976, the year before I was born, 91% considered themselves to be Christian, and now it's down to 64%, Dad, you know. So, everywhere, basically, all countries, especially high income countries, are losing their religion the fastest, Dad. So what do you think that's about?
Well, I can't, you see, as I just cannot accept that when you die, there's nothing left. I mean, there's God, so I cannot never accept that when you die, there's nothing left.
Well, yeah.
Now that's probably faith. I don't know, but that's the way I believe.
Well, let me say though that I've never ever said I don't believe that there's nothing else happens. I think after I die, life as I know it will just go on. You know, if I die and God, hopefully God, so Indy's okay, right? And then Indy will have maybe he will have kids and maybe he won't, and life will just go on as I know. But what will happen to me is that I will decompose, and then all of the atoms and everything that make up my body that will all go off into the ether, and eventually it'll all coalesce into some other form, Dad. Right? That's basically what science says, right? And that seems to me like, well, that's
Well,
all right.
science can't prove. See, science can't prove that there's no God.
No, we can't. But science can't prove that Harry Potter doesn't exist either. But he highly unlikely does.
Yeah, but if you believe that, to me, this is what I can't understand. People believe in gladiators. They believe in the Romans, but the one thing they cut out of the mind is part of that history. I mean, how can you cut that out of history? How can you?
Well, why would you need to count it out of history?
Well, no, because if you don't believe in God, you're virtually saying you don't believe Romans existed.
No, you're not. Why are you saying that?
Because I mean, it's part of history. Jesus is part of history.
Well, that you can't prove that to me. I can prove to you about the Romans, though. I mean, there's roads in Wales
Well, no,
made by
because
them.
you can prove the gladiators and that. You can prove that. Yeah. Well, all that, but why? Why is the one thing you do not want to believe?
What do you mean?
there's one thing you do. Is one thing people don't want to believe is part of the Roman history.
Well, I'm pretty sure that there was lots of stuff that happened that people don't believe about Roman history, Dad, right? Or don't want to believe in. But I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to say to that, Dad. There's nothing. I mean, all right. If you're going to spring that one, right, Dad, what about you believe in dinosaurs, right?
Mm.
Are you telling me that you believe that dinosaurs have existed on this earth in the last 10,000 years?
I have no idea about dinosaurs. I know they existed.
Right.
But
Well,
I mean, because they've found remains of them, like, haven't they? And
right. So in the last 10,000 years, that's when we started farming, right? The humans started the agricultural revolution, and that's when apparently when the Earth was made, right? In Abrahamic texts was like in the last 10,000 years or so, Dad. So for that to be true, it would mean dinosaurs were on the planet, then they weren't, and then humans were on the planet in their modern form, and yet God made humans first before he made any other dinosaurs, which he never mentioned any dinosaurs, did he? In the Bible. Fucking weird, that, isn't it? No? I mean, okay.
No, it doesn't mention dinosaurs. No.
No, which would be weird, isn't it? If it happened like in the last few thousand years. So I don't know, Dad. If you're going to bring in like mention of the Romans and that, you could eclipse in history. So, well, why don't people answer those?
No, it is though, isn't it? I mean, it is part. Jesus is part of history in the Roman. So I can't understand why black people block that out of the Italian history.
Well, I mean, who blocks it out? I mean, any Christians, none of them
Well,
block
no, because if you don't believe in God, you're blocking, and you don't believe in Jesus, you're blocking that part of history out.
Well, here's the thing though, with you, it's possible, Dad, to believe in Jesus and not believe in God, right? So I wouldn't have a problem. I don't have a problem believing in Jesus. He may or may not have existed, but he's there in history. Could be a mythical, could be folklore, Dad, or it could be that there was a real guy that was an amazing guy at the time, amazing morals that gave him incredible speeches, and people followed him, and he was a real good guy and deeply moral person.
Yeah, in the shocking times of the Romans, when you all believe that they used to feed the Christians to the lions. And that is
I mean, they did horrible stuff to them. That's why at that time they were kind of ripe, Dad, for
but why would they?
Someone telling them
they were frightened of Christ because they must have been frightened of Christ because they would give it. If you said you believe that you were a Christian, they used to feed them to the lions.
Oh, well, of course they were frightened.
Now, you believe that. You believe that. You believe that, though, don't you?
Oh yeah, I mean, well, look, if you
if you believe that.
If any authoritarian state, Dad, through history, if you look at them, Chairman Mao in China, he banished religion, right? They don't want a religion that can compete with them for power, for their cult, essentially.
Oh, no.
Stalin did the same, Dad.
The Romans didn't. They were frightened.
Of course, no, of course.
Because they thought he was a king, and they didn't want a king. They're the king, not Jesus. But he wasn't the king of the land. He was the king in heaven.
Well, yeah. Yeah. Well, what was the original story you were just disappointed about there, Dad? See, the thing that I do agree with you, Dad, I think humanity is missing something, right? Because of a religion has disappeared from our lives, and we had something in it. I don't agree with needing that, but I think we did have something that oriented us to our history, right? To the earth. Now that's disappeared, and people have replaced it with shopping, right? Consumerism and a technology, Dad, right? So everyone.
Oh no, we just gone worse. We just gone worse and worse. I mean, governments don't even think about the people. All they think about is money. It's all over the world. A lot of them are corrupt. It's been proven they're all corrupt. I mean, countries, the poor have not got no food or anything like that, and they're millionaires, billionaires. You know what I mean? It's absolutely crazy. Crazy.
Yeah, but I don't think there's
the world has gone worse by not believing in God. Because it would be better if people believed in God.
Yeah, well, I might disagree with you on that. I'm not saying that, but it might be better that we don't believe in God and that we also don't worship consumerism. I don't know, that it's difficult to say whether that is a result of people not having religion or whether it's like the introduction in the 1980s of Margaret Thatcher's, like, there is no society. It's just your family and you. Don't worry about anyone else kind of stuff, right? That kind of eroded, I think.
No, but to me, it costs nothing to be nice. It costs nothing to be nice, but it costs a lot to be nasty because you're going to pay for it,
Well, some people don't, do they, Dad? I mean, they just get to live out their lives relatively peacefully, and then they die of old age or whatever, right? Right, Dad. What did you think about that submersible that's gone missing in the Atlantic?
Well, I'm just praying that they say they find them, but I doubt it now because the oxygen seems to be they said the oxygen is running out this morning. I think the last chance is that French boat. They've got submersible ones there; they can go that depth. So I think that is the last chance.
Because there's not many that can go that depth, right? It's one of the only ones that can, right? 3,800.
But they reckon that months and months ago they said that it wasn't safe to launch that thing. So why are they? You know what I mean? People paid £250,000 to go on it, and it's unsafe.
Yeah, I was reading. Apparently, a guy who'd been on it already, he was saying that he knew when he went on it that it was dangerous. He knew what he was doing. That he sees it as an exploration.
£250,000 to do it.
As people used to think. It's 4 or 5 people, Dad. It's only 2.4 meters long. Have you seen the size of it?
I know. Yeah. They reckon in space. It's like one of these little transit vans. That's what space they've got for 5 people.
Yeah, I wouldn't fancy being in that. Like, there's only a tiny little window.
Yeah.
That'd be horrible.
So I don't think they will find them, but I still hope, I suppose. But they reckon they can hear banging, but that could be animals, that could be whales.
Yeah, no, it could be anything, I suppose, can it?
It could be anything. Yeah.
But what do you think about this, Dad? Right, the rescue mission apparently is going to cost millions, right? Who do you think? Who do you think is going to pay for that? Do you think the company? The company's called, what is it? Ocean.
No, it'd probably be the taxpayers.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the taxpayers. They've been making a fortune by renting this out, and then when something goes wrong, the taxpayers have to pay for it.
I know. Yeah.
Another thing go on. The thing that got.
I mean, it's all wrong, isn't it? Yeah.
No, it's always the way that
he's a billionaire, the one that's gone on it, isn't it?
I mean, you think they would be paying for it, but it's the poorest people in society have to pay for their little exploration down to 4.
That's right. Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Because they reckon he was that type of man. He liked to go on to dangerous things,
Yeah. They should have to sign some sort of waiver anyway. But what annoyed me about it, Dad, was that, like, the amount of news coverage this is getting, 5 people in a submersible, 5 rich people in a submersible looking for fun down, looking at where all these people died on the Titanic.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then
what is it fantasy to look where people died? Yeah.
No. But then look what happened in the Mediterranean last week when you had 750 people on a boat. That was a main news story for like half a day or something, right? And then it's forgotten about. Look at all this just for 5 billionaires or 4 billionaires and a captain, whatever it is,
Yeah, and all the money they're spending, the taxpayers have got to pay for it. Yeah.
No, it's exactly the same as what we were talking about with the water earlier. But that's probably enough for today. Right. Yeah, nice one, Dad.
Okay, nice speaking to you. Okay, boy.
Have a good week.
Okay.
Ta-ra,
boy. Ta-ra.